Okay, so let's talk about a name you definitely know, Leonardo da Vinci. We all think we have him figured out, right? The master artist, the genius of the Renaissance, the guy behind some of the most famous paintings in history.
And when you hear that name, I bet this is the first thing that pops into your head, the Mona Lisa. Her smile has fascinated people for hundreds of years. It's become the poster child for his artistic genius. But what if I told you the paintings, well, they're just the tip of the iceberg? Because this is also Leonardo da Vinci. Yeah. The very same man who was painting with almost divine grace was also designing armored tanks, producing these huge, over-the-top theatrical pageants, and, get this, dissecting human eyeballs. He was dreaming up perfect cities. And he was even a vegetarian who would buy caged birds just to set them free. He was way more complicated, and frankly, way weirder than just a painter.
Which brings us to the real mystery here. If his genius wasn't just about art, then where did it actually come from? I mean, how did one person get so good at so many completely different, kind of random things? Well, it turns out the answer isn't hanging on a museum wall. The real key to unlocking Leonardo's mind is found in something much more private, much more raw. His notebooks. It's kind of a miracle, but we still have over 7,200 pages of his personal notes. And we're not talking about a simple diary, no. These pages are a chaotic, brilliant whirlwind of sketches, calculations, questions, and lists. It's a direct window into his brain, the greatest paper trail of pure curiosity ever left behind. And in these notebooks, you find his actual to-do lists. And forget about buy milk. Leonardo's daily list was more like, calculate the size of Milan, find a master of hydraulics and ask him how to fix a lock, figure out how people walk on ice in Flanders, and get the measurement of the sun. And, my personal favorite, describe the tongue of the woodpecker. I mean, who even thinks to ask that question? This wasn't for a paying gig. This was just because he had to know. And this obsessive need to know things, it was really a product of his situation. See, he was born out of wedlock, so he couldn't go to university. He couldn't read the classic books in Latin or Greek. He even called himself an unlettered man. But he turned this huge disadvantage into his greatest strength. He became a disciple of experience. He was forced to learn everything for himself, by looking at the world more intensely than anyone else. And this is where it all clicks into place. This is the answer. Leonardo's genius wasn't just in art or just in science. It was in his incredible, rare ability to see the deep connections between them. Think of it like this. For him, science was the engine that powered his art. He studied anatomy and dissected bodies so his painted figures would look shockingly real. He mastered geometry and math to create compositions that felt perfectly harmonious. And his deep dives into optics? That led to his signature techniques. One was sfumato, that famous smoky blurring of outlines. Another was chiaroscuro, the dramatic use of light and shadow. Together, they created this almost magical three-dimensional illusion. For Leonardo, art and science were just two languages telling the same story. Seriously, just let that sink in. To paint a person, he first had to understand every muscle and nerve from the inside out. He didn't just paint a pretty background. He studied geology, the flow of water, and the physics of how atmospheric haze makes distant mountains look bluer. Every single brushstroke was backed up by hours of intense scientific investigation. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Leonardo wrote it down himself. He said that a painter's #1 goal is to make a flat surface look like it has a solid three-dimensional body on it. And how do you pull off that magic trick? He's crystal clear. It arises from light and shade. It's science. So, what can we take away from all this? Well, here's the really cool part. Leonardo's genius wasn't some bolt of lightning from the heavens. It was actually built on a set of habits and principles, things that are surprisingly practical for us today. If you want to think like Leonardo, it really boils down to 5 things. First, be relentlessly curious about literally everything. Second, don't just look, observe. Really see the details everyone else glosses over. Third, think visually. For him, drawing wasn't just for making pretty pictures. It was a tool for understanding. Fourth, find the patterns that connect different things, like the swirl in a whirlpool and a curl of human hair.
And finally, and this is a big one, learn to embrace failure.
Because for all of his brilliance, Leonardo was deeply, deeply human. He got distracted. He procrastinated. A lot of his most ambitious projects, that gigantic horse statue, his epic battle mural, they were magnificent failures. They were either never finished or, in the case of the mural, literally destroyed by his own flawed experiments. His genius wasn't about perfection. It was about the relentless, messy, and beautiful pursuit of knowledge.
This quote basically sums up his entire life's philosophy. Why would you go to the water jar of secondhand knowledge when you can go directly to the fountain of your own experience? That one powerful idea drove everything he did.
So ultimately, what Leonardo really shows us is that genius isn't a thing you're born with. It's a fire that you have to feed every single day with curiosity. So the only question left is, what fountain will you go discover today?